Dear sisters and brothers, it really is an honor for Taiwan Coalition Against Violence to host this event. My name is Shaolin Hua, the chairperson of Taiwan Coalition Against Violence and the visiting staff of Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, National Taiwan University Hospital. And I'm also a professor of Department and Graduate Institute of Forensic Medicine, College of Medicine, National Taiwan University, and I'm also a leader of Division of NTU Children and Family Research Center, sponsored by CTBC Bank. Here, you see the owl is the logo of Taiwan Coalition Against Violence. Taiwan Coalition Against Violence is a leading organization that we are an alliance of 35 individual expert members and 39 non-governmental organizations working on diverse issues, including domestic violence, sexual assault, child protection, victim protection, etc. As you know, the Generation Equality Forum's landmark 5-year plan for global action from 2021 to 2026 shows us a clear vision for the entire global to build a more unified future. We'll be focusing on 3 of the 6 critical building blocks today. With ever more urgency, this event will elaborate on and provide actions towards 3 of the forum's directives. The first one, gender-based violence. The second, social economic equality and justice. And third, the intersection of feminist action with climate justice. Each of the 3 speakers represent a key aspect in a multifaceted movement to rebuild, from surreptitious international social economic aid to Taiwan Coalition Against Violence's holistic violence protection and prevention to sustainable low-carbon living technology by the Low Carbon A Healthy Living Foundation. The first speaker is Sharon Fisher. Sharon Fisher is the previous president of Surreptitious International, completing her term at the close of 2021 after 2 years of adapting SI's work to COVID-19. She led the appeal Road to Equality, addressing vulnerable women and girls at risk of being left behind due to gender-based violence and harmful traditional sexist practices. The second speaker is Shu-Wen Liao. Shu-Wen Liao is the Secretary General of Taiwan Coalition Against Violence. She has been working for the prevention and elimination of gender-based violence in Taiwan since 1988. During the late 1980s, Shu-Wen worked on legislative reform directed to initiate the Sexual Assault Crime Prevention Act toward increasing conviction rates, protecting victims, and changing attitudes. The final speaker is Shui Tianzhang, Arki. Arki, the CEO of the Low Carbon Healthy Living Foundation, is dedicated to promotion and the innovation of low carbon, low cost, and healthy lifestyles. He eventually became a member of the Taiwan Architecture and Building Center, Low Carbon Building Alliance, Low Carbon Certificate Review Board. Aki is also the inventor of the Earth Box, a shipping container redesigned into a housing unit that cuts heating costs, provides sustainable power and water, and allows for rooftop farming. Okay, let's welcome the first speaker, Sharon Fisher.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask if I can put my slides up. Thank you. And you can see my slides? Greetings to my friends in Taiwan and beyond. I see many people logging on from around the world with some familiar names. It's a pleasure to join this panel today on behalf of Seroptimist International, and I'm coming to you from the place I call home in Vancouver, Canada. NGO CSW is an opportunity to share stories of hope, of inspiration, and of dreams about helping women and girls to live their best lives. And that is just what our Seroptimist name means, best for women. Seroptimist International has clubs in over 120 countries around the globe, including several thousand members in Taiwan. Working at the grassroots level, responding to whatever challenges women and girls may face throughout their life course. And we've been doing this work for 100 years. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary last October, and it was my honor to be serving as the international president at that time as we walked down memory lane, recalling the many, many projects that we have delivered that have helped women and girls. We are guided by human rights and gender equality for all, and our work is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. The impact of climate change and natural disasters is particularly devastating for women and girls, and often a Seroptimist project can be found making a difference in sustainable ways to give hope to those vulnerable women and girls at risk. Today, I will speak about our response to the earthquake in Nepal in April 2015. I had the privilege of being the coordinator for that project. We had projects across the country, but I'm going to talk about one in particular today. Even before the 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck in 2015, Nepal suffered from extreme poverty due to political unrest, insurgency, and violence. Nepal was chosen for our international appeal following the devastating earthquake, which displaced millions of people. 39 of 75 districts of the country were severely affected by the earthquake. Seroptimist International invested in effective, meaningful, and transparent partnerships to assist those most affected by the earthquake. In rural Nepal, the poverty rate is almost 3 times higher than in cities like Kathmandu. Educational and medical facilities are limited, and many children are undernourished. Following the natural disaster, women and girls suffered disproportionately, and aid was unable to reach the most isolated rural areas where 80% of the population lives. Natural disasters tend to have a twofold impact on the education and employment sector through damage to infrastructure and facilities and the interruption of schooling and income at a time when they are most needed, and indirectly by an increase in the number of women and girls being trafficked and subjected to violence due to lack of structure and a viable income. If a woman's husband has died in a disaster or he has migrated to the city in search of work, she is then left to be head of the household with the sole responsibility of providing for her family. And due to women's lower literacy levels and a lower likelihood of owning her own land, this leaves women in a very vulnerable position at a time when she has heightened responsibility. While we had many projects in Nepal during this time, I'm going to share a specific project today in a very rural and remote area called Kayangasur. We always strive for sustainability in our projects, teaching skills that will empower and enable women to continue these projects long after we have moved on to help yet more women and girls in other locations. In this rural area, the women were traumatized after the earthquake, with many houses destroyed and damaged. Some houses were still standing, but some were tilted and some were lost completely. People were afraid to stay in closed rooms, and men had left to try and earn money in Kathmandu, leaving women and girls behind and destitute. An Austrian seroptimist arrived in the village looking for ways to help. A simple concept was introduced that had a big impact. The women working together every month put, say, $1 into a fund, and with enough money raised, women could gradually be granted a loan. The collection and distribution of money was meticulously recorded. They all invested in the same activity by choice, being chickens, so they could sell eggs and raise chicks, earning their own money and repaying their loans. And they were very proud of those chickens. And this was the start, the early start of their recovery. They wanted to educate themselves further, however, and sought support for the diversification of agriculture and organic farming. Not all varieties of plants would thrive here, and awareness and knowledge of how to improve growing conditions was not present. Due to the remote nature of the village, selling products could not even be considered. It was too far away. Even though Kathmandu is only 250 kilometers away, it is a 12-hour journey by Jeep, but sometimes even taking 20 hours. As with many villages post-earthquake, this village had received no aid, with government officials having little interest in remote villages. The village people named a spokesperson, and they organized themselves to clean up their village. It was challenging. India had imposed a trade blockage at that time, cutting off fuel and other supplies. But Seroptimus provided immediate aid, distributed corrugated metal for the construction of emergency shelters, some needing to be carried up to 6 hours to the shelter to be used. Children were supported with school materials, and then a health post was set up with material and money. Chairs, large pots, and tarps were distributed to facilitate meetings. The community started discussions about shaping their own future by working together. The women set up a model farm by using their village save and loan system that they had used successfully for the chickens, and legally registered a women's group. They took part in training courses and were determined to own their own land and register as an agricultural cooperative. 2 subcommittees were formed within the agricultural cooperative. One was responsible for construction of the buildings, and the other for organic vegetable cultivation. Seroptimist was represented in both groups as an advisor. Initially, the land was rented for them with a vision only to purchase it. They needed to identify a water supply for the farm and for the local houses. Then they were introduced to composting. Greenhouses were constructed. Suitable plants were selected and cultivated. A shelter for the oxen was built, and fruit trees were introduced. The greenhouses now were growing a larger selection of vegetables, and they were able to trade vegetables for use of oxen to plow the land. And when the oxen were there, they collected manure for use as a fertilizer. Some of the plants grown in the greenhouses were distributed, sold, or given away in exchange for needed services. They learned to work together, solving problems by having discussions in their group where solutions would emerge. They needed to survive extreme storms and rain in monsoon season, but were able to repair damage as it occurred with their newly learned skills. 2 of the women received an education to learn how to cultivate the land. Given the steep elevation, the land was at risk for slides during the rainy season. Climate and altitude were problematic in the village, located at about 3,000 meters altitude, where things are difficult to grow. Training from a permaculture expert helped with the design and maintenance of agriculturally productive ecosystems that were diverse, sustainable, and capable of self-regulation. Initially, the land was leased for 20 years, but due to the uncertain situation of a lease and to ensure it could not be taken away, they received financial support to buy a part of the land, and that is where the permanent buildings would be located. The land is owned by the agricultural cooperative. Next, the women took training courses and learned about management and operations. The sowing of plants was recorded precisely to learn more about their growing cycles. And after many conversations, training for the farm was set up. In the compost pit, women could produce organic fertilizer, and materials for compost production is collected from old leaves and other plants from the forest. Everything learned is proudly shared with the children. A farmhouse with a large kitchen and training hall was built. Here they manage the farm and prepare for harvest. When completed, a celebration was held with everyone invited. A scale was built in time for the harvest. Vegetables were sold, and thanks to training, education, and greenhouses, the wider choice of vegetables improved food security for many women and their children, and the building is a central place in the village. At the beginning, right after the earthquake, there was not a single greenhouse in the village. But after construction of 3 large ones on the training farm, some small ones could already be discovered in the gardens of the women who had built the greenhouses. When women earn money and continue their education, not only is the family better off financially, but the position of the women in the patriarchal structure also changes. She has a higher status, gets prestige, and the established roles change. Since the women can no longer do all the housework on their own, the men also get involved. They cook, they clean, and wash laundry. And the result is a slow change towards equality. 3 years after the earthquake, the government finally arrived, intervened, and provided the inhabitants of the village with building materials for additional greenhouses. Thanks to the training of the women, the families already knew exactly how the construction works and how they could best use the government's help. Families who had no use for the materials donated them to the model farm, contributing to sustainability. They were particularly proud of their irrigation system in the greenhouse. All the work done has helped to heal the trauma and lack of hope that was caused by the earthquake. Now that the farm is running and agricultural trainings have provided success, the cooperative is strong and able to work with authorities and partners, and the women's words carry more weight, finding their demands are being met. And now they're having another wish fulfilled. They wanted to improve their reading, writing, and calculations. and this will help them have a better overview of the sale of their vegetables. It will help them draw up seed plans and write them down. The women are ambitious. They work hard and they help each other. To further strengthen the women's personality, gender training sessions are also now held. They learn their rights, how they can defend themselves against injustices, what possibilities there are, and how they can assert their rights. Due to the poverty of their families, many girls in rural areas are still married very early to a much older man under the strict supervision of their mothers-in-law. Only through education is it possible to break this cycle. So the village set up a scholarship program for girls. Many children, especially girls, have no official documents in Nepal, such as birth certificates or citizenship papers. However, these are important so they can be independent and prove their age. Through this program, the goal is that all scholarship girls will receive their official documentation. There is no doubt the need for assistance is great in Nepal, in what is labeled as one of the poorest countries in the world, even before the earthquake of April 2015. Seroptimist International decided to focus on rural Nepal, as poverty remains predominantly a rural phenomenon, with 96% of the poor living in rural areas. 29% of the rural population fall below the poverty line versus 8% of the urban population. Seroptimist International supported almost 20 projects for skills development and income generation for underprivileged women who endure economic hardship and have no social support in their communities. It is these situations that can yield the best results. Women and girls' vital role as leaders and agents of change needs to be recognized. Only through increasing education and economic opportunities for women can they reach their full potential, and we can truly live in an equitable world. And there is nothing that makes me happier than moving a woman from hopelessness into hope. Thank you very much, and I've enjoyed being with you today.
Okay, thanks a lot to sharing for sharing their valuable experience with us. Thank you very much, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's welcome the second speaker, Shuwen Liao.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. I'm Shuwen Liao, the Secretary General of Taiwan Coalition Against Violence. Today, I would like to show you how we have extended our concern from violence against women and children to violence against the earth, highlighting the urgent intersectionality between the two issues and how we start grassroots feminist movement responding to climate justice. In the short 25-minute speech, I can only give you a glimpse of how our work in Taiwan has shifted from past trend to future stress, connected us in our holistic efforts, from system-based advocacy to community-based advocacy, and how we connect with SDGs, CDOC, and the Generation Equality Forum to turn global visions into local action. Most importantly, what I want to show you is our strategies, our goal to turn advocacy into a lifestyle. That's the way we can expanding our influence from the professional fields to approachable public efforts. The video may more clearly to give you the whole idea that Taiwan Coalition Against Violence, who we are, and how we work.
hope everyone can live safely on Earth and be free from all the violence, stigmas, and stereotypes. In Taiwan, 1 in 4 women has been threatened by gender-based violence, GBV, in their lifetime. The reported domestic violence cases is as high as over 130,000 cases in a year. Over 10,000 sexual assaults are reported each year, in addition to about 1,000 sexual harassment complaints per year. Initiatives for combating gender-based violence in Taiwan had already started in 1988. Many women's groups launched victims' protection projects at that time, and some legislation concerning gender-based violence was established within a decade. The Taiwan Coalition Against Violence, TCAV, was founded in 2004 and is the first coalition in Taiwan. Our goal is to prevent and eradicate GBV through many initiatives, including the Owlish Special Hotline, judicial advocacy, media communications, community prevention, and an elderly care system. We try to eliminate any harms and discrimination that is caused by gender inequality. TCAV is utilizing an ecological model of prevention and protection, just like planting trees, where the ideology takes root and grows protection for victims. We dedicate ourselves to strengthening the professional collaboration network and aim to eliminate all prejudices from the justice system and advocate for the criminal justice system to adopt a trauma-informed approach to prevent secondary harm. TCAV is an intersection, cross-profession organization that you can trust. We unite social policy, law, mental health, education, law enforcement, and the medical system, and work on eliminating all forms of gender-based violence. We also challenge myths and discrimination in media culture to rebuild a culture that supports victims and raises awareness of gender sensitivity. Now, we also work with communities to stop gender-based violence from a prevention perspective. TCAV established Empowering Team for Elderly Care Stations. By means of consultation and demonstration, we successfully introduced the philosophies of CEDAW and SDGs into communities. We empower local groups and advance actions in communities. TCAV believes that only if communities are strengthened will society become more friendly. Dignity, advocacy, collaboration. TCAV continuously shaping social change. Speak up for the vulnerable. Time is up.
Here, we are highlighting the UN Women's Watch report on climate change and gender equality. These few alarming numbers paint a picture of why feminism in climate justice is such an urgent global issue. Now is a vital moment for activists, feminists, allies, and youth to support the women and the children being disproportionately affected by climate change and the intersection of structural gender inequality. That is why this year we are partnering with the Low Carbon Healthy Living Foundation. In today's event, we're going to discuss how we involve climate justice, the Low Carbon Health and Living Foundation and Taiwan Coalition Against Violence will introduce the Earthbox Empowerment Center, demonstrating the key concept of self-reliant low carbon living, circular economics, and urban farming. By the way, for your reference, the president of Low Carbon Health and Living Foundation, Professor Lin Xiande of Chengkong University, he created the School of Green Magic, which is one of the only buildings to receive the top green building certificate in both Taiwan and the United States of America. What is special about this green building is its affordability. It's accessible to communities in need and is a viable construction method to have a real impact on saving the planet. We promoted collaboration in the protection network. The health protection networks on promise and action. The goal was to develop practical model on integrated cross-disciplinary teamwork and innovation, as well as to create victim and family-centered service strategies. This upcoming October will the 10th anniversary award ceremony. Firstly, I would like to show you the power of collective action, a story of professional and society networks working together to protect dignity in life. In Taiwan, we follow the ecological system model where we have formed a protection network stretching across every segment of society, shedding a spotlight on every gender-based issue to ensure we leave no one behind. I'm a person who likes to use picture and art to show the vision of goal. So here I'm using a picture drawn by my colleague. Originally, this picture was for the 4th Asian Pacific Gender-Based Summit, which is meant to send my best wishes and vision that may all of you be healthy, may we all work together, forming a coalition to build cities where SDGs are implemented locally and the people engage with victims through a trauma-informed lens. All of which, when we combine, has long-lasting butterfly and flywheel effect. I'm sincerely thanks to all in the audience. And while I cannot see you and we might not know each other, however, I believe we all have the same big heart and minds, the same tears for all victims, and live under the same sky and stand on the same earth. Eventually, together, we can bring our efforts and allies significantly more impact and health in the long run. That's a step toward showing people how to find strength in kindness and empathy, toward advocacy becoming a lifestyle, and toward turning professional field into approachable movements the public can participate in. Starting with systematic advocacy in law, TCAV and our member partners have successfully reformed the justice institution by passing critical legislation, including the Sexual Assault Prevention Act, the Domestic Violence Prevention, which was the result of advocacy from the government, civil society, and especially members of TCAV who have been dedicated to this for 30 years. Now all solutions are not complete yet by solely building the law. We all have to answer the question of how to implement, enforce, and continuously improve a holistic protective way around the law. Currently, we hold regular meetings with police officers, judicial officers, social workers, educators, and medical personnel to exchange our experience and develop best practice to reduce the mishandling of cases. We conduct workshops and provide a handbook on what it means to be a trauma-informed in different fields, a fundamental qualification for a positive attitude and understand when engaging with women and children. Additionally, we have dedicated to make median change to new narrative to report on gender-based cases that including putting local under the broader international scope to highlighting the basic fact that power structures in society are not equal. In the story of our past change to future stress, we start with the Just Initiative. The most important change within our judicial system was when the Supreme Court judges made the pivotal change from blaming victim who didn't immediately report the crime to the picture that the ideal image of the victim exists only in the imagination of the patriarchal system. Today, we focus on trauma-informed approach to improve the quality of evidence in the criminal procedure practice. The media plays a very important role in primary prevention by spreading the right views and culture across society. It's critical how incidents are described, how the privacy of the victim and families are handled, and how the society broader response is presented without reinforcing gender stereotypes, stigmas, and myths. Recently, we put a lot of effort into creating new models of narrative justice for reporting on gender-based issues. We also succeeded in suggesting the new TV news channel to use TCAV6 media reporting principle to form the basis of their broadcasting guidelines and regulation. We hope that can bring some real change in media culture. Now our hotline program also have complained about stalking cases. In June, new anti-stalking acts were put into effect, and we are going to evaluate how they are handled by the police, prosecutor, and judges, whether the kinds of protection offered is enough. Our job involves monitoring the service governments provide for gender-based victims, both online and in person, constantly watching out for any inadequacies of policies, attitude, and culture. As you know, in order to reach a world where nobody is left behind, we have to be embraced by the people. It is essential that every level of advocacy and action, from systemic to localized communities, moves together. Here, the Grassroots movement is represented by this card, which the umbrella is TCAV's protective umbrella, and which recites the resource, know-how, and advocacy we bring to each community through our empowerment teams. They work with locals to exchange public attitudes and establish preventative network. In 2017, we wrote the CEDAW Shadow Report, rallying the government to propose an action plan for gender-based violence prevention. In 2018, we create youth empowerment teams to engage in grassroots efforts with elder community care stations around New Taipei City to strengthen their caretaking capability. Since 2020, the Generation Equality Forum outcomes were integrated into the program design of cross-generational grassroots dialogues and the collective action project. In this year of 2022, we are looking ahead at the intersection of climate justice and female empowerment efforts through a new branch office with Low Carbon Center, the Earthbox space for female empowerment. By incorporating low-carbon health living, we aim to share with more people how it can relate to gender-based violence prevention and gender equality, ultimately making the feminist movement more inclusive and diverse. What is next? As you can see, we're building a local capacities for protection and prevention, focus on finding strength in kindness and empathy, hoping we can make them more powerful and reach our goal faster, not only by bicycle, but also the new high-speed train of technology and diversified cooperation, bring out profound individual and structural change. For example, we recently expanded our online resource to chatbot technology, adding smart infrastructure to extend our reach for raising awareness of gender sensitivity, trauma-informed approach, elder abuse prevention, and media supervision. Chatbot acts as a faster and non-stop vehicle for relaying the message to younger generation, with it being available to public access at any time through popular mobile message apps. We created gamified interaction, During today's presentation, you will find that even though our coalition is merely a professional group dedicated to the solemn work of passing legislation and engaging in holistic protection and prevention, our work also in contrast requires us to engage with the wider public in approachable ways. Ultimately, we aim to turn feminism in all its forms into a lifestyle citizens passionately live by. This year, to quickly increase public awareness and connect gender issues to climate justice, we have developed a partnership between TCAV's empowerment teams and the Low Carbon Health and Living Foundation, in which we are using this Earth Box as our new branch office. It acts both as base for female empowerment and a showcase of how low carbon technology can provide empowerment, autonomy, and safety. This new office works with Elders Community Care Station in the city, where more than 80% of the volunteers are women. The Earthbox Feminist Center enable a more mature movement and make the lifestyles of advocacy accessible to the community. The Earthbox, made by a shipping container, from structure to equipment, was built completed by recycled materials. It has a lighting window to bring in sunlight, green roof to isolate heat, and the solar panels to generate a direct current. According to carbon footprint statistics of the Earthbox, the carbon emission is reduced by 43% compared to traditional reinforced concrete building. The Earthbox is successful teaching materials in educating people about energy saving and low carbon emissions. It also has the features of green healing and agricultural possibilities. It enables a life of empowerment, autonomy, and safety by providing a way to live off a tiny piece of land with non-stop renewable power and water, rooftop farming technology, powerless temperature regulation, and built-in biodiversity, all of which are smart green design that care for our Earth. Later on, our expert speaker and inventor, Suitian Zhang, will provide more details of low carbon technology work behind. So this is our strategies of a grassroots feminist movement responding to climate change through, number one, community care stations establish empowerment capabilities and networks. The second, Earthbox, exhibit the autonomy and safety and public awareness for climate change and justice. The third, mobility provide potential that in the future we can reach and help more people because the size, cost, adaptability, and mobility of the Earthbox enable it to empower rural areas in new way. Finally, I want to quickly mention our empowerment team working with the Elders Community Care Stations. In Taiwan, there are currently more than 4,000 Elders Community Care Stations to promote a healthy life. Now, TCAV has worked with for around 300 such community care stations across two cities, New Taipei City and Taoyuan City. In the process, we have the opportunity to unify women's rights, CEDAW, SDGs, and the theme of the Generation Equality Forum into a focused push to change the public thoughts, attitude, and behaviors. So we will have workshops to continue the dialogues with people. Everyone can be the happiness creator for sustainable life and well-being, working on the broad road of SDGs macro diversified and inclusive vision. Here is a quick video to show our work with Elders Community Care Stations. This, when we have a clear vision, focused goals, and a well-paved path toward lasting change, it's also important to ground our hearts, our ambitions, with Earth, because without Mother Nature, we would have nothing. While the start might seem small, just like very little seeding. In searching for the best way to protect Earth, we found that low-carbon health and living principle is one of the most specific ways to reduce carbon emission and protect the environment in terms of construction, energy consumption, and lifestyle. When everything comes together, we can have a society understand the important strategies of a more diverse and inclusive feminist movement with actions on climate justice. Thank you for your listening. Let us work together for a better future.
Sharing the TCAD's experience to all audience. Let's welcome the final speaker, 水田章.
Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be invited here to give this talk, to talk about the Earth box. So 土盒子 is directly translated to soil box. And the soil box is also called Earth box, and it was developed by the Low Carbon Healthy Living Foundation and donated as a living space for energy saving and carbon reduction education, and in line with Taiwan's future climate change. So this is also, soil box is also known as Earth box. It can help solve the climate change issues. It can also help deal with the water shortage and electricity shortage, and also the food security problem. Earthbox is a movable living space. It incorporates low carbon technology and smart green architecture. This fully embodies the 5 core values of the nature, low carbon emission, sustainability, circular economy, renewable energy, and health promotion. It is also the future of people to live together with nature. And you can live in this place happily with your family. Why is Earthbox a low carbon building? Well, because it uses recycled containers. It uses low carbon materials and low carbon approach, low carbon equipment, low carbon decoration, and low carbon gardening technologies. and allowing residential and commercial buildings, which account for about a quarter of the world's total carbon emissions, to gradually transform into a near zero emission industry. We are looking forward to the day that low carbon buildings, the affordable green buildings, are no longer only empty promises, but something as accessible as tap water, affordable for all. So I would like to share with you a video that Earthbox promoted to a kindergarten. This is the magical Earthbox. The video says, the children in the video talks about the Earthbox. And this is given by a loving grandpa. The container is empty. So the grandpa repurposed the container and modified it into a Earthbox where children can live in this Earthbox. So how can container be transformed into Earthbox? It uses a lot of materials to become a Earthbox that can hold many children. Earthbox is environmentally friendly. It uses leaves, branches, and different materials. So it uses these materials and put it into the interior of the Earthbox. And there is a sunroof on this container. Children can read in the Earthbox because the lighting is very good because of the wide window. And you can also do some carpeting work in this Earthbox. It won't affect others. So this Earthbox can be decorated as well. It can be painted yellow to represent a warm effect. It can be painted pink, so it looks like a strawberry. So this is the Earthbox. And scene. So this video is, you saw this video, so this is the process when teachers bring children together to talk about this Earthbox. So you can see the children are all adorable and cute. When the Earthbox is completed, children can do some science project, carpeting work, or do some experiment or learn the ideas about green life in this Earthbox to understand the importance of nature and ecology. So one of our exhibition center is located at the National Taiwan Industrial High School. The Earthbox is a model for all architecture students to learn from. The school named the Earthbox a permanent house, and this provides students with courses in energy saving and carbon reduction, allowing the students to learn the future methods of low carbon construction, to learn about low carbon materials, equipment, and construction industry. So we changed their mindset, and we also want this to become the collective goal of everyone. In the Taoyuan Agriculture Expo, the Earthbox was visited by tens of thousands of visitors from 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. Without air conditioning, without means electrical supply, water, or gas. So in the subtropical summer climate of Taiwan, the earthbox enables us to enjoy a comfortable modern life, even in such hot weather in Taiwan, which is a huge advantage for its promotion. We use 1 kilowatt solar panels and batteries to activate water cooling fan to keep the room cool. And also we have lighting, television, refrigerator, and drip system using the rainwater from the ecological pond that are all powered by direct current electricity, DC electricity. The earthbox was well received by the guests during the exhibition. Now we all understand the threat posed by global warming, and this is result from the emission of carbon dioxide. And in architecture, carbon emission accounts for 1/4 of total carbon emissions. So how to reduce carbon emissions in architecture is very important. According to National Health Research Institutes, if the urban heat island effects increases by 1 degree Celsius in Taiwan, it may affect the elderly population, increasing their intelligence and suicide rate by 5.49%. In terms of water shortage, Taiwan ranks number 18 around the world. And in terms of rainfall, Taiwan ranks number 13. So how to retain and reuse rainwater in urban areas to prevent droughts and floods is very crucial. Product category rule PCR for architecture is a science. In other community, and in our case study of a collective housing area, we found that a family of 4 living in a 330 square meter house spent 10,000 on electricity, NTD of course. But because of low carbon building, when they moved to a 400 square meter house, the electricity bill in summer was significantly reduced. It was reduced to only 2,500 NTDs. So this shows the importance of carbon footprint disclosure. Carbon disclosure is very important. A carbon disclosure factors in the carbon footprint of the process from the acquisition of raw materials, transportation, construction, and all the way down to the end of the life cycle of a building. So it kind of resembles the idea of from cradle to grave. And all the numbers are all stored in a database to make calculations.
Through carbon footprint disclosure, we know that if a 330 square meter building uses low carbon building approach, the energy it saves is equivalent to planting 9,000 trees and saving 170 bottles of 600 ml water bottle. For the building energy efficiency certification rating system, the Ministry of the Interior in Taiwan will soon roll out this rating system. The purpose is to allow home buyers to better understand how buildings save or consume energy and understand how to use the government's third-party certification to choose the buildings with the lowest carbon emissions. This saves money, and the house also provides a healthy, comfortable, and sustainable living environment. Looking at the carbon disclosure assessment of the Earthbox, we can see that in a 40-day life cycle, a total carbon emission generated, it's 17,800 kilograms. Compared to a normal concrete building, it reduces carbon emissions by 43.87%. The main body of the earth box is a recycled container, and the interior incorporates a low carbon approach. The earth box has a 25-centimeter wall outside, which is filled with about 5 centimeters of local red clay and agricultural waste. And it also uses recycled railway sleepers, tires, and 4 solar panels to form its main structure, creating a living space with no waste, no gas, no air conditioning, no electricity, no fire, no barriers with accessibility. The exterior of the container is formed by combining iron parts, steel mesh, and soil filling, which will not fall off due to sun or rain. It is maintained in a simple way as a sustainable construction. The solar power is stored in the lithium-ion battery, which provides the whole living space with warmth in winter and coolness in summer, making it a breathing house. Since the weather in Taiwan is really hot in summer, the floor cooling fan and JW method can cool down the surrounding environment near the building. According to medical research, the electromagnetic waves generated by alternating current AC electricity can cause sleep disturbance. And DC electricity can partially solve such a problem. This is what we found during the development of the Earth box. The lighting and ventilation window is placed above the cabinet. It does not require motors or electricity, and it can stand strong in the wind or heavy rain. The air inside the box can be naturally convected because the surface temperature of the Earth is exactly the opposite to the body apparent temperature. The Earth will produce geothermal heat in winter and geothermal cold in summer. So we apply this geophysical principle to building the Earth box. Through the thermal insulation of low emissivity glass, we can solve the heat problem in the subtropical climate without using air conditioning. For the rooftop garden, we use a thin water tray, main root plate, and filtering cotton so that fruit trees or medicine plants, rice, and herbs can grow naturally. It won't be affected in any shape or form because the water tray can reduce the load of the building. And it would also prevent root damage. Therefore, one does not need to worry about the root causing any damage to the building's rooftop. And through the automatic drip irrigation system, through direct current power supply, we can reduce the elderly people from the burden of taking care of plants. And therefore, people might be more willing to grow more plants. Additionally, through the process, we can also allow the users and their nerves to relax in this environment. The JW ecological method is created by someone in Taiwan who really cares about the environment. They have adjusted this method with Taiwan's climate. The pavement can withstand heavy pressure, noise, and water accumulation problems. In summer, the JW method allows the room temperature to cool down by 17 degrees Celsius, reducing the heat island effect, as well as CO2 emission. When it comes to a long-term use of this earth box, and we also found that the organisms in the layers of dirt will continue to live. Thus, the extensive use of the JW method is effective in creating a sponge city. By understanding the carbon footprint, we can create a low carbon, healthy, and happy lifestyle. We can create a resilient building with constant water and electricity, providing safety and energy autonomy. The rooftop agricultural production can partially ensure food security. The direct current electricity is only 24 volts, but humans can only sense electricity above 50 volts. Thus, if families use direct current electricity, home appliances at home, there won't be a risk of electrocution. The green rooftop of the cabinet uses a rainwater recycling system. This creates a cool and ecologically diverse environment. In a community in Taoyuan, we have applied this method to the community. And we have also put our registered building materials to a Netherlands platform, so the materials can be recycled. I hope that today's introduction of the Earth Box will help more women and everyone to achieve the 17 SDGs and promote it everywhere. So in the future, we hope that the TCAB can help promote the Earth Box, which is very environmental friendly and also affordable. We really hope that the Earth will become a more beautiful planet. And this requires our collective work. So thank you for listening.
Thanks to Shui Tian for sharing the knowledge of low carbon and earthbox with us. And now 3 speakers all finished their speeches. And is there any question? If you have any question, please let us know which speaker you want which speaker to answer the question. Thank you. Okay, now I want to raise a question for Shui Tian, and I want to know that how can one person live in the earthbox house? Would you please let us know what's the situation that can we live there inside the box?
图盒子它是可以透过不
We can actually modify the earth box according to one's needs. Today, there are actually already many people applying this method and using the earth box, because we don't build stairs inside the earth box. Thus, there is a high accessibility for elderly people.
Is there any other question? I would like to ask a question to Sharon. Sharon, okay. And would you please let us know that in your experience, what is the most impressive things or memory or experience during your work with the women's in Nepal?
There were so many, it would be hard to pick just one, but what a person can do to help women and girls with just a little bit. So much of it is education and the opportunity for them to get an education and be safe and understand their rights. It is, I've come across villages where girls aren't in school because their parents don't even know how to achieve any money to get them into school, when in fact they can be sponsored, they can have scholarships. It is the will to do things for themselves is amazing. They just need a little bit of a lift up and a little bit of help. And that's where we came in with many projects, and we funded the little bit they needed to get started and to know that their rights, they didn't have to. There was quite an experience in Nepal with women having to go and live with the animals during the time of the month when they have their periods, for example, and they were dying in those huts from exposure and snake bites. And if you can imagine that that was expected of them, they didn't know that that was not so. They didn't have to do that. So changing the customs was a big, big thing for us, educating them that when they get a job offer, it might not be a real job, it might be a trafficking situation. And if they know ahead of time by communication and education, we can help them avoid the risks that they fall into. It's it's a very challenging country because of the terrain and the politics and the government. But I also was amazed at the women that were knowledgeable on the SDGs and how they were trying to make things better from an advocacy point of view. So it's a very, very interesting country, but you know, the little villages everywhere are nothing like we're used to in an urban setting, that's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's one question from our audience that's TCAV started lobbying in 1988, but the flood of good laws only started about 10 years later. Was there a major political shift in Taiwan? Okay. I think that Shuwen can answer this question.
During that time, actually, when we first initiated the Sexual Assault Prevention Act, during that time, it's very, very difficult for the society because under that culture during that time, that let me say this way, when we lobby in the legislation, Yuan and old men, during that day, old men come out, all the female legislator, they come out, ask our one question, whether during the couple, is it any possible for the sexual assault? And if our answer, yes, then they feel this law, this act is not suitable. So during that time, the culture and government don't feel it's the time. But after so many rape cases happen and so many women died during those years, and certainly there's only 11 days after 10 years, yeah. And certainly the government find out there's a one law frozen in the frozen somewhere, so they immediately using 11 days to pass the law. So that's why I always say we just prepare well our work. You never know what time is available. So even in the beginning, it's so difficult. We even think that's impossible to pass, but so quickly. And then when the time is ready and everything we prepare well, they immediately pass. And because this passed, so in very soon, 1 year, the Domestic Violence Act also passed immediately. And then you can see Taiwan is quite sophisticated in all the legal structure in this females, this movement. That's something, yes, maybe need to be stay there for 10 years, but that's why we still do whatever we need to do the work, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think there's another question for Shui Tian. That is the Earth box suitable for cooler climate?
It's also suitable for cooler weathers because as well as cooling it off, it could also maintain heat. For example, if it's in somewhere that it snows, it could also maintain the heat inside the house. Thank you.
I think there's also a question for Shui Tian. It's talking about the rooftop farming. can you introduce more experience to us?
Oh, 好。
All right, on the top, there is a 5 centimeter water plate. Because plants require a lot of water. When there's water, there's plants. It could grow very well. We only need to occasionally water the plants. We don't need to, like, for example, shower the plants as if we humans are showering. They won't die because they don't have access to water for just a while. Therefore, it is possible for us to grow plants on the top of the roof. And this is also very important for our development. According to our experience, we would find and choose more local plants. For example, peaches, apples, lemons, guava, and pears, and such as herbal plants. They're actually more resilient in different kinds of environments. And it could even grow up to 4 meters high because there are typhoons in Taiwan. Therefore, we have to support the tree, but if it is well supported, it can grow strong. Actually, a lot of people are worried about root damage, which might break the walls. But according to our research, if the roots are exposed to the sunshine, it will actually cause more damage to the rooftop. So if we pave the rooftops with the metal layers, the metal plates, water plates, it could actually grow better. A lot of people are afraid to grow plants on the rooftop. And in addition, we could even grow plants on the walls. And in Taiwan, we have been conducting this kind of experiments for.
One more question for Shui Tian. Are there any companies in the United States producing earth box, or who would reach out to in Taiwan to assess this?公司在美国可以就是跟他接触，然后可以买这样子的一个构造或者制作这样。
It will be my pleasure to share with everyone this kind of method. In the US, there are hurricanes, wildfires, and other disasters. And these are also extreme disasters that might pose threats to people's lives. And I do think that the earth box could also reduce these risks. but I would advocate for education so that we could advocate for more people or perhaps the companies in the US to promote the Earth box, or maybe have them import the Earth box and allow the Earth box to adjust to different kinds of climates. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us at today's event. And we all hope to stay in touch. You can contact TCAV directly at our website or our email address. Okay, it's tcav@gmail.com, or visit the websites below. Thank you very much.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
谢谢。
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sharing.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Thank you,
morning.
sharing.
Yeah, have a good day. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we keep in touch, contact. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye. Yeah.
Thank you.
谢谢大家的听我的分享。
Recording stopped.